Well, the Rams franchise tag Alaric Jackson in 2 big free agent targets the Rams could pursue. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the Locked On Rams YouTube channel, the fastest growing Rams YouTube channel in the game. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report, Dodgers Nation. I do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today I am flying solo. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, is on vacation, but we've got a jam-packed show. We're going to start talking about the Rams' offseason plan in free agency. And we're going to talk about Alaric Jackson today, the Rams starting left tackle. He was an undrafted free agent. Should they franchise tag him? And an ESPN NFL analyst has linked the Rams with 2 free agents that we're going to talk about too. But let's start with Alaric Jackson, because it was a big year for Alaric Jackson. He comes in off the year he had last season, where got to a slow start, then he picked it up, and then this year he was really the model of consistency. He really put together statistically a year where he was a middle of the pack starting left tackle. And to be a middle of the pack starting left tackle in the National Football League is certainly something that is of high quality, is of high demand in this league. Outside of the quarterback position, you can make the case that left tackle is the most important position on the field. This season, he earned a 78.3 PFF grade. He had a 79.5 PFF grade as a blocker. That was 23rd among 141 starting left tackles. The overall grade, though, 18 out of 141 tackles and guards and the linemen in this sport. The run blocking at 75.9. He ended up playing in 893 snaps, allowed 3 sacks on the season, and allowed 4 hits total, allowed 22 total pressures, which was 92nd in the sport at that position. But overall, he is a middle of the pack. He is an average to an above average starting left tackle in this sport. So first question, should they look to use their franchise tag on him? Well, if you've been following this organization for some time, you know that Les Snead and the Rams, they have not elected to use that franchise tag. We haven't seen it since they used back-to-back franchise tags on Tremaine Johnson, and then they did on LaMarcus Joyner. And since then, we haven't seen it once. But Alaric Jackson is a player that the Rams are going to seriously consider bringing back. And they're going to have to decide. The first question is, should they throw that franchise tag on it? Well, if you look at the franchise tag, I mean, $24 million, something in that capacity. Now, if you look at his current market value, according to Spotrac, it's around 15 to 16 million. It's at 15.97 million. PFF, they have him at 14.5 million. So the current franchise tag for an offensive lineman projected for next season is at $25.16 million. So you look at that number right there, that'll tell you everything you need to know. The answer is no on a franchise tag for Alaric Jackson. But as far as the Rams and what they could do, well, if Jackson were to negotiate with other teams, they could match an offer for him, and that would be around $22.75 million. So that kind of tells you the ballpark that they're in, and really it comes down to one big thing, and that is, how much do the Rams love Alaric Jackson? If they like him, he might not be in the Horns next season. If they love him, though, that is going to ultimately determine if they're going to extend him a contract that pays him between $15 to $19 million per season. The franchise tag, the transition tag, those are higher. You don't have the flexibility and how that will help them with the cap number in that instance. But you just kind of look at some of the comps. Jordan Mailata, he got $22 million per season last year. But yes, even with the inflation in contracts, with guys making more money, if you are desperate need of a left tackle, what's the difference between $16, $17, $18 million a year and $22 million? It's not incredibly significant, but for someone like Alaric Jackson, I do think it is. So I think the sweet spot for Ajax has to probably be anywhere between 18 and 20 million. You look at his age, it's going to be the youngest left tackle that's going to be available in free agency. And he is a starting left tackle in this league that has had success blocking for Matthew Stafford. And he's a great story, too. He's an undrafted free agent who's put himself in a nice position to make a nice payday. And I think ultimately the Rams are probably going to either have enough on him where they're going to want to bring him back because of the success that he's already had in his organization, or they're going to want to look elsewhere. Now, I don't think that there's that premier starting left tackle in the open market. I don't think that exists for this team. I also don't think that there's that premier starting left tackle in the draft that they're going to look to draft. I've told you this before. I do think that this is the year that we're going to see the Rams strongly consider, with the 26th pick, going with that offensive weapon. We mentioned names like Colston Loveland. And do you go out there and try to get another receiver to pair with a Puka Nacua with Cooper Kupp departing on an eventual trade? I think that they do that, and I think that this comes after the decision to hopefully bring back Matthew Stafford on a renegotiated contract that gives him a nice extension to hopefully finish his career and retire as a Ram. So if you're asking me, I don't think that starting franchise left tackle is out there. There are no Orlando Paces and Andrew Whitworths that make sense for this team right now. They can just go out there and easily acquire. And the way that you can upgrade this team at other positions does exist. So, look, I mean, sometimes you have to go with the opportunity that's in front of you. And if Jackson's happy here and they're happy with him, it seems like their recipe is there to get a deal done. Yeah, a lot of times you want to go out to eat, right? Sometimes that food is better at home, right? Sometimes you need that home cooking, and Alaric Jackson to provide you just that. But coming up next, we're taking a look at a couple of free agents that the Rams have been linked to that could certainly bolster this team. We're going to talk about that next. That's coming up on Locked On Rams. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to get in on a bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new customers at FanDuel can get a $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to send a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. You guys are what make this channel go. You'll make this podcast go. And now's the time to join that Everyday Listeners Club. This off season is filled with intriguing storylines. Will Matthew Stafford sign an extension with the Rams? Will Cooper Kupp be dealt? Where will he be dealt? Free agency, the draft. That is where the Super Bowl is made. So definitely join the Everyday Listeners Club, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. But here in our second segment, we're talking some free agency. Now, Matt Bowen of ESPN, every year, he drops his top 50 free agents, and then he links them with the teams that he thinks they're the best fit for. And he has the Rams linked to 2 free agents. And the first is Keenan Allen, who just comes off a season with the Chicago Bears. And Keenan Allen, we know the success that he's had. He's a veteran, and you could view him as a replacement to Cooper Kupp. At this stage of their careers, Keenan Allen is a more productive receiver than Cooper Kupp, and he also has that veteran savvy too. So he is kind of a plug-and-play, let's go chase a Super Bowl type of player versus kind of a younger player that has some upside. I mean, a T. Higgins, someone that's more in their prime, that's going to cost more money. You're looking at around $20 million per season, something in that ballpark. But someone like a Keenan Allen is logical. He does make some sense. It's hard to say, no, Keenan Allen would not help this team. He always has had a great reputation for what he brings to a building, what he brings to a locker room, and he is a veteran. Now, I think the first question I have if I'm the Rams during this whole free agency period is, why are we hitting in the draft but struggling in free agency? Because the next time the Rams hit on the draft and in free agency, and if they do it coming off a roster that has a lot of young emerging talent, they still have veterans in key positions, and hopefully Matthew Stafford is back, and you have a Super Bowl winning head coach, then this team can get over the hump. And instead of playing the Eagles on the road in a snowstorm where you're 14 yards away from making the NFC Championship game where you would host it against a rookie quarterback and Jayden Daniels and have a really good shot at making the Super Bowl, well, you can have a better regular season. And you can hope to get some home field advantage and some buys potentially. But the Rams have absolutely whiffed in free agency too many times in recent years to give themselves the best chance to have success when it matters most. Last season, Tre'Davious White, they took a flyer on him. He was gone. He was replaced. Jonah Jackson, that was their big offseason, big ticket item lineman. The first thing I said when they made the signing was, he's good when he's healthy, but he has dealt with injury issues his entire career. And not only was that the case, but he also was replaced by a 6th rounder in Bo Limmer, essentially. So Jonah Jackson, he did not have success. He was not the free agent signing that you had hoped he would be. He just didn't pan out. Colby Parkinson, same story. Signed him to a deal over $22 million. You hope that he can be a red zone threat, that he can take the torch from Tyler Higbee and be that tight end of the future in this 11 personnel offense and throw some more 12 personnel out there and just be that guy that he was profiled to be in Seattle, and you were hoping that, hey, he just didn't get the opportunities in Seattle, but he was going to get that with the Rams. No, it just did not work out. Now, the Rams do have an estimated $37 million in cap space, so that's a good chunk of change to go out there and be active and pursue a couple of win-now pieces. Keenan Allen, if they sign him, I wouldn't be doing cartwheels around SoFi Stadium, but I would not be mad. He's someone that would be additive at the right price. The other name is Cam Robinson, left tackle, and he's currently ranked as the 15th best free agent this offseason. And this makes sense because this would replace Alaric Jackson if you don't bring him back. So the Rams could value him more than they value Alaric Jackson. They would also have to pay him more, but this is what Matt Bowen wrote. He said, with Alaric Jackson set to hit the market, the Rams could find a replacement in the 6'6", 335-pound Robinson. Technical lapses have prevented him from playing consistently, and his 88.2% pass block win rate was below average, but with the ability to engulf rushers at the point of attack and the foot speed to redirect, Robinson has the desired physical tools at tackle. The Rams have to focus on protecting Matthew Stafford, and Robinson can help. So that works. That's fine. I don't think that would necessarily hurt them in any way, but you're kind of betting on upside. And we've seen when it comes to free agency and linemen and with Jonah Jackson, I have a little PTSD with that, a little gun shy on bringing him in. I think Alaric Jackson, is he going to make the Pro Bowl? Probably not. Is he going to be an All-Pro? Most likely not. But there is something to be said about just being average at a very important and demanding position. And I think the age of Alaric Jackson being the youngest of the coveted free agent left tackles, I think makes him a very interesting option and really a better fit for this team, quite frankly, because I think that's where the Rams are at. I mean, if they're going to go big on someone, they want him to be absolutely elite. And I just don't think that that Bowen is necessarily elite. So I mean that Robinson is elite. Now, what he says about Allen, Allen was the 50th player on his top 50 list. So right at the end of those top 50 free agents, he had Keenan Allen. And he said about Allen, returning to Chicago is an option for Allen. But with the Rams expected to trade Cooper Kupp this spring, there is an opportunity for Allen in Los Angeles. And Sean McVay's offense, which uses movement and alignment to get receivers free access off the ball, Allen could operate as a number 3 option out of the slot. Allen caught 70 passes and 7 TDs in Chicago last season. So, yeah, like I said, it does make sense. He said that he is open to leaving the Chicago Bears this offseason. So, look, I mean, playing for the Rams does make sense. I mean, his family still lives on the West Coast. He has roots here. I can see it, but I don't think that's the answer. I want to point that that's not the answer. Allen is not. If Allen's the only kind of big offseason splash on the offensive side, then I'm going to be concerned, because I think that you need to go bigger than that, especially because you're jettisoning Cooper Kupp. So I think that you need to make a bigger swing, but it would be an indication of a Super Bowl level kind of veteran additive player from that standpoint. He also has Alaric Jackson as the 40th best player. So he actually has Jackson below where Robinson is. But like I said, I think that the fit for him, I mean, he has the Patriots listed as a team that could go after Alaric Jackson. So, I mean, that's the team that has the most cap space in the NFL, and they need a left tackle. So it makes a lot of sense. But I like one of them, Allen. I don't love the idea of Robinson. I'd take Jackson over Robinson really in a heartbeat, from being completely honest. Now, coming up next, we are talking about getting a mobile quarterback. Les Snead hinted at the Rams pursuing a mobile quarterback. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Rams. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, here in our third segment, we're going to start a conversation that we're going to continue on the show, and that is who's going to be the quarterback for the Rams in 2025. Until Matthew Stafford signs on the dotted line and they get a new deal done, that question is going to be continued. It's going to continue to be asked, because that is the NFL. You got to know who your quarterback is before you start to have a conversation about anything else. And it got me thinking, there was an episode of the Sean McVay show from a couple months ago, but it wasn't Sean McVay. It was Les Snead, Rams general manager, who filled in for him on that episode. And he really had some telling comments about how he feels about mobile quarterbacks and the benefit of mobile quarterbacks. And if you know Matthew Stafford, you know, great arm, not great legs. And Les Snead said about mobile quarterbacks, and basically also kind of having your quarterbacks on a lesser salary, he said, if you can put your salary cap hat on, because of the last generation of football, we talked about how that cheat code of the salary cap is having a quarterback who can win you a title on a rookie contract. And then he said, when I think about the rest of this year moving forward for the Rams, and then all of a sudden, Les Snead, he interrupts JB Long, and he said, cheat code, and then he continues, our cheat code could be a quarterback that could become a 6th eligible and extend plays. Defenses are designed to cover this thing for 3 seconds. Next thing you know, they're at 6 seconds. Oh, geez. And then he said if he had to pick between a quarterback on a rookie deal or a mobile passer, Les Snead said both of them work, but I would take number 2 over 1. That is extremely interesting to me because Les Snead is always having his eyes on the future as far as the roster build for this team. And you've also seen kind of the backup quarterbacks for this organization. Blake Bortles, Bryce Perkins, Carson Wentz, Stetson Bennett, John Wolford. Those are all guys that are above average when it comes to athleticism and tucking it and running it and trying to get extra yards on the ground with their legs. So for me, this isn't a conversation of whether or not Matthew Stafford gives this team the best chance to hoist the Lombardi Trophy in 2025. It's a question of, from a money standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, are the Rams ready to go in a different direction? A quarterback like a Justin Fields could be available. Guys like that aren't going to command top-end, top 10 quarterback dollars, but you could plug him in to an offense with Sean McVay and see the evolution of it. I mean, just look at the playoffs last year. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray for the Cardinals during the season, Jaden Daniels. I mean, those are quarterbacks in the last couple of seasons that have an impact. And that really is the direction of the sport, is quarterbacks that have some mobility. This organization has had pocket passers, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. At some point, you have to imagine that the franchise is going to evolve with the game. Patrick Mahomes has been the best quarterback as far as postseason success for the last couple of seasons. Not Michael Vick, but can certainly get yards on the ground. Jalen Hurts. I mean, the list goes on and on. That is the direction of the National Football League. So I think if you have a quarterback that has a special arm, like a Matthew Stafford, then certainly that's option number 1. But if you aren't going to go the direction of Matthew Stafford and you have to pick a new guy, then I think that Les Snead kind of showed his cards a little bit about the direction of this franchise. We're going to talk about more about this tomorrow, about the future of the quarterback position for the Rams, and I'm going to drop some names of some mobile quarterbacks that they could get if Matthew Stafford isn't back. Of course, Stafford's option number 1, but if they do not get a deal done, we're going to throw out some names of some other options. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?